Hello and welcome to this special CompuSchmooze Attitudes video podcast about the National Museum of American Jewish History under construction in Philadelphia. In just about a year from now, thousands of visitors to the cradle of American independence in the historic Independence Park area of Philadelphia will be exploring a new museum about America's immigrant experience. The National Museum of American Jewish History is building a lavish 6-story museum complex on the former site of what many Philadelphians remember as KYW's television studios at the corner of 5th and Market Streets. The new museum is going to replace a relatively cramped existing space that the museum has shared with Congregation Mikveh Israel on 5th Street, just north of the new site, since 1976. The new facility will take up 100,000 square feet and have exhibits and interactive displays about American Jewish history over 3 permanent exhibit floors. From the 2nd through the 4th floors, the 5th floor of the museum will be used for special events and temporary exhibits. The new facility will have an open 85-foot-high atrium with skylights illuminating its entrance and open staircases from the ground floor to upper floors. The permanent exhibits will take up 25,000 square feet of the museum space and include examples from the museum's collection of more than 20,000 objects ranging from the colonial times to the present. The museum will also include a center for Jewish education to serve school children and classes, a 200-seat theater space, and an event space overlooking Independence Mall, as well as a gift shop.
The National Museum of American Jewish History is dedicated to telling the story of the American Jewish experience. In fact, it's the only museum that is dedicated exclusively to telling that story. It is principally a story of how one ethnic group has thrived given the blessings of freedom that are afforded by our Constitution and by the liberties that we enjoy in this country. But it's not the only ethnic group that has thrived under those freedoms, and we think therefore that the story we tell, while a very particular story to American Jews, nonetheless is one from which one can derive universal lessons.
Josh Perelman is the museum's historian and deputy director for programming, and he says technology will play a major role in the new museum.
There are 3 types of media being used in the new museum. The first is audio, the second is film, and the third is interactive media. Audio is basically anything you might hear in the museum, which is to say you may be in a gallery, say about summer camp in post-war America. And in the background, you'll hear the noises of kids singing Hebrew songs, of children playing, of children cleaning up the dining hall, right? So it's atmospheric sound. At the same time, there's also directly narrated story. So recordings, either original recordings of live human beings or human beings, actors, using primary sources from the past, whether it's the 19th, 18th, 18th centuries or whatever, and opportunities to hear people tell their stories in their own words. So that's one type of media. The second is film, and that in some ways is the media that I think we all understand the best. Film is something that you watch and you learn from. And we are working with a wonderful film producer, David Grubin, who many of your viewers may have seen The Jewish Americans, which was a 6-hour miniseries on PBS that was, I guess it's almost a year and a half ago at this point. And David's doing about 12 films for the new museum. Some of them are very familiar, documentary style. Some of them are very inventive, whether they're using animation or whether they're in kind of complex spaces and therefore require complex filmic solutions. The third thing is interactive media, and I think that's the part that's going to be, in somewhere, that's where the fireworks are, and that's the area where visitors to the new museum will really get to experience things that are new and invented specifically for this institute.
The museum will also have a feature modeled after the popular National Public Radio program StoryCorps. It'll be called It's Your Story, and it will involve an oral history recording facility where visitors can record their own recollections, family stories, or other observations. Besides becoming a part of a rich oral history project, the recordings will also be used as a sort of feedback into the museum, so they'll provide real voice content for the exhibits and for audiovisual content that's posted on the museum's website as well.
So the conversation will not just be happening in the physical space itself, but the conversation will be also extended onto the internet, and folks on the internet can interject into the conversation that's happening in the museum itself.
One area of the museum that will probably stir some passionate debate is called the Only in America Hall of Fame. That's a permanent exhibit on the ground floor of the museum that honors 18 American Jews for their contributions to the nation in the areas of arts and entertainment, business and philanthropy, literature, performance, politics, law and activism, religion and thought, science and medicine, and sports. The public was invited to vote on the choices for the first inductees into the Hall of Fame, and before the polls were closed in August, about 130,000 people voted on who should be included.
And the goal of that gallery is really to revisit some of the core themes of the museum, themes about freedom, about choices, about challenges, and about opportunities, and do that through the lens of some very remarkable individuals.
And of course, constructing and running a museum of this caliber is going to require some serious fundraising. The museum officials say that fundraising is pretty much on target. They're attempting to raise $150 million, and as of August, they had raised more than $120 million, including a $1 million capital donation from Steven Spielberg's Righteous Persons Foundation, which came in 2008.
There are a number of challenges. Of course, there are significant logistical challenges. We're moving from a space in which we have a very small museum to a space in which we will be a very large, significant museum. There are lots of logistical and practical challenges simply associated with such a move. There's certainly financial challenges. Obviously, we're doing this during a period of great financial stress and economic stress in our country. And of course, building a building of this magnitude requires significant funding, and that's a very significant challenge for us. Operating a building of this magnitude requires significant funding, and that's also a great challenge. We certainly are soliciting support from corporate donors as well as foundations, and of course from individuals. So the answer is yes, there's a place for all kinds of donors to our campaign. We've been very fortunate, and I would say that it has not been limited in any way to the greater Philadelphia Jewish community, although we've certainly gotten significant support from that community. Our capital and endowment campaign is a $150 million campaign. To date, we have raised nearly $120 million. So we've been very fortunate, and we're quite gratified by the level of support we've been afforded. This museum is about Jews, but by no means exclusively for Jews. The story of the American Jewish experience is in many ways a very particular and unique story. On the other hand, it is quintessentially the American immigrant experience that we're describing in this museum, and in that respect, the lessons to be derived are truly universal. So this is a museum that will be, we think, of great interest and very exciting to the wide range of the American public, not only American Jews, although of course we expect it'll be specifically interesting to the American Jewish community.
For Attitudes Magazine in Philadelphia, this is Steve Lubetkin.